a quiet suburban neighborhood where the main character, Sophia Allen, a woman in her early 30s, lives with her husband, James, and their 5-year-old daughter, Ella. Life was perfect. Sophia's career as a graphic designer was flourishing, James was a loving father, and Ella was their sunshine. But their world is shattered when James suddenly dies in a car accident. The story begins with Sophia's devastation. She feels lost, as if the world has crumbled beneath her feet. Her grief is overwhelming. Every part of her home reminds her of James. The picture frames, the coffee mug he used every morning, the note he left on their kitchen counter the day before the accident. Sophia tries to put on a brave face for Ella, but the weight of her sorrow is unbearable. Her emotional pain is felt deeply in the narrative as she struggles with guilt, confusion, and fear of what her future holds. In the early moments, we feel her vulnerability. Sophia isolates herself from friends, afraid they don't understand her pain. She questions her worth and whether she can continue on without James. A flashback of happier moments brings bittersweet nostalgia, reminding her of the love she once had. As Sophia's grief deepens, we see her internal conflict. Her relationship with Ella starts to suffer. Ella misses her father, but her sadness is different, more subtle, like a quiet ache. Sophia becomes so consumed by her grief that she begins to neglect her role as a mother. She's unable to connect with Ella, whose own emotions are complex and confusing. On top of emotional turmoil, Sophia faces financial strain. James had handled their finances, and now Sophia has to learn how to manage their bills. She misses the stability they had. The pressure becomes unbearable, and she feels ashamed to ask for help. Sophia's self-worth plummets as she questions if she is a good enough mother. Her depression becomes crippling. She spends most of her days at home, overwhelmed by the weight of her responsibilities. Sophia's thoughts are scattered, and she often finds herself questioning if it's worth going on. One day, while walking to the park with Ella, Sophia has a breakdown in front of strangers, unable to hold back her tears. This is the lowest point for her. The stranger, Maya, an older woman with a kind face, notices and offers comfort. This moment sparks something within Sophia, a flicker of hope. Sophia hesitates at first, but Maya insists on taking them to a cafe, offering a listening ear. Maya shares her own story of loss, how she lost her husband years ago, but through the pain, found a way to heal. Maya becomes Sophia's first real connection since James' death. Their bond grows as Sophia opens up about her struggles, and Maya offers simple, practical advice, like starting a journal to process emotions or looking into support groups. Maya introduces Sophia to a support group for widows, and while Sophia is hesitant, she attends. The women in the group share their stories of loss, pain, and resilience, and Sophia begins to realize that she is not alone. This marks the beginning of her emotional recovery. She starts to talk openly about her grief, acknowledging her pain without shame. Through the support group, Sophia begins to build strength. She returns to her work as a graphic designer, taking small projects to regain her confidence. Slowly, she starts taking care of herself again, getting out of bed earlier, eating healthier, and making an effort to be present for Ella. As Sophia grows stronger, she begins to rebuild her relationship with Ella. She learns how to be more emotionally present for her daughter. They start sharing bedtime stories together, laughing, and creating new memories. Sophia realizes that despite the pain, she must find a way to keep moving forward for Ella's sake. Sophia returns to her passion for graphic design, working on a project that brings her unexpected joy. She starts a side business designing personalized digital art for people going through grief, helping others honor their loved ones. This venture not only gives her a sense of purpose, but allows her to share her story of healing and inspire others. As she navigates the ups and downs of life after loss, Sophia receives a letter that shakes her. An unexpected letter from James' best friend, Daniel, who has been distant since the accident. He confesses that he had an affair with Sophia's late husband just before the accident, and now he feels guilty. The betrayal rocks Sophia's world, but it also becomes an opportunity for growth and forgiveness. She decides to confront Daniel, seeking closure. Sophia meets with Daniel and listens to his confession. She is hurt and angry but also understanding. Daniel explains how his actions were driven by his own internal struggles. The confrontation is emotional and raw, but it's also a moment of liberation for Sophia. She learns that forgiveness doesn't mean excusing bad behavior but releasing the burden of resentment. After this confrontation, Sophia reflects on her own journey, how she's come so far from the woman who was paralyzed by grief and doubt. She embraces her strength and finds peace in knowing that life will continue to surprise her with moments of growth, no matter how hard it gets. Sophia comes to understand that healing isn't linear. It's a journey of embracing the darkness and learning to navigate the light. She realizes that the only way forward is to keep moving, no matter how slow, and that even in the most challenging moments, there is always a glimmer of hope. Sophia's life takes a new shape as she balances being a mother, a businesswoman, and a woman who has faced the depths of loss and emerged stronger. She starts a charity in James' name, helping widows and single mothers find emotional and financial support. The story ends with Sophia sitting on a park bench, watching Ella play, a gentle smile on her face. The camera zooms out, showing the beauty of her new, self-built life. The story concludes with a message of hope. No matter the depth of despair, healing is possible. With time, self-compassion, and support, we can rediscover strength we never knew we had. Grief does not define us. It's how we rise from it that shapes our future. Sophia Allen's world had been built on love, stability, and a shared dream of growing old together with James. It was the kind of life that many would envy. A happy marriage, a beautiful daughter, and a career that, though challenging, gave Sophia a sense of purpose and fulfillment. But on that one fateful evening, all of it unraveled. It was an ordinary Tuesday evening, or at least that's how it seemed at the time. James had kissed Sophia goodbye that morning, just like every other day. His smile was warm, his eyes filled with affection, as he promised to be home by 6:30 p.m. It wasn't out of the ordinary for James to work late occasionally, but this time, something felt different. It was as if the universe was quietly preparing her for the life-altering event that was about to unfold. Sophia was sitting on the couch, flicking through some emails, trying to finish a few freelance designs. Ella was playing in the corner of the room, drawing pictures with her crayons. The house was peaceful, filled with the gentle hum of life, when her phone rang. The number on the screen wasn't one she recognized. At first, Sophia thought little of it, assuming it was a telemarketer or a wrong number. But when the voice on the other end identified itself as a hospital worker, everything in Sophia's world came crashing down. "Ma'am, is this Mrs. Sophia Allen?" The voice was calm, too calm, as if bracing for something awful. "Yes, it is. What's going on?" she asked, trying to remain composed. "I'm afraid your husband has been involved in a serious car accident. We need you to come to the hospital immediately." Her heart stopped. The world seemed to freeze for a moment. She repeated the words in her head, "serious car accident," and then the finality of it hit her. James, her partner, he could be gone. Sophia rushed to the hospital, her mind clouded with fear and disbelief. Ella, still so young and innocent, sat quietly in the back seat of the car, oblivious to the horror unfolding around her. The drive to the hospital felt like an eternity. Time had become irrelevant. There was only the gnawing uncertainty in Sophia's chest, a visceral gut feeling that something irreversible had happened. When they arrived, Sophia was led into a sterile waiting room, far removed from the bustling corridors of the emergency department. A doctor, whose face was inscrutable, came to speak to her. His words were blunt, as though he had said them 1,000 times before, and the weight of them crushed her spirit. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Allen," the doctor said, his voice gentle but firm. "Your husband, James Allen, passed away from severe head trauma sustained in the accident. We did everything we could." Her world tilted. The room began to spin as the words "passed away" echoed in her mind, each one like a hammer, driving the reality into her heart. She sank into the nearest chair, feeling as though her body had betrayed her. She couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't feel anything except the hollow ache inside of her. James was gone. The accident had happened just after rush hour. James, driving home after a long day at work, had been involved in a collision when another driver, distracted by his phone, ran a red light. The impact was catastrophic, and despite the best efforts of the emergency responders, James succumbed to his injuries within minutes of the crash. His death was instant, leaving no time for him to say goodbye, no time to prepare, no time to make peace with anything. The driver of the other car had been severely intoxicated, a fact that would later haunt Sophia. She learned that the man who had killed James was a repeat offender, someone who had been arrested multiple times for driving under the influence. Yet, he still managed to find his way onto the road that night. The injustice of it all filled Sophia's thoughts. The anger inside her began to simmer. Anger at the drunk driver who had taken everything from her, anger at the system that allowed it to happen, and even anger at James for leaving her so suddenly. She had so many questions, so many things left unsaid. They hadn't even gotten to their 10th wedding anniversary yet. They had plans, dreams they had only just begun to speak about out loud. Sophia had wanted more time with him. She had wanted more time to show him how much she loved him, how much he meant to her. Now, she was left with nothing but an empty chair at the dinner table, an empty bed at night, and a daughter who would grow up without her father's love and presence. The grief came in waves, each one crashing harder than the last. Sophia couldn't understand how life could be so cruel, how someone could be taken so suddenly and without warning. It felt as though she was drowning in sorrow, unable to find solid ground beneath her. Her home, once filled with laughter and light, now felt suffocating. Every corner, every object held a memory of James. The photographs of their wedding day, the slippers he left by the door, the smell of his cologne on the pillow next to her, which she had not dared to wash. It felt as though he was still there, haunting every room, a constant reminder of everything she had lost. Sophia found it difficult to even look at Ella. She felt guilty for not being able to provide the emotional stability her daughter needed. Ella was so young, so full of questions that Sophia couldn't answer. Why didn't Daddy come home? Why did he have to leave? The innocent questions from Ella broke Sophia's heart over and over again. She tried to smile, to reassure her daughter, but how could she reassure anyone when she couldn't reassure herself? Every moment felt like an effort. Every step was weighed down by the burden of grief. Yet, even in the darkest of times, there were moments, small flickers of light, that Sophia clung to. When Ella smiled at her, or when she heard the sound of James' voice in the wind, it reminded her that she wasn't alone. But those moments were fleeting, too far apart to offer any lasting comfort. Sophia had always prided herself on being strong. She was independent, capable, and self-sufficient. But now, without James, she was unsure of who she was anymore. She couldn't remember what life felt like before the pain. Her grief felt endless. And yet, in the quiet moments, Sophia heard something within her, a whisper telling her that she had to keep moving forward. She had to find a way to live again, for herself and for Ella. But the road ahead felt uncertain, full of obstacles, and full of unanswered questions.